Hey, what's up, Reddit? Welcome to the show. My name is Mike. You can catch me on Twitch at StillInFAC and on YouTube at Not Fooling Around Crew. This is a tune that I made for Kiwi Titans, it looks like. So I made a post on Reddit asking if anybody needed a tune. This is the first response, so I hope that you like it. This is the 1987 Ferrari F40, and it's tuned specifically for Goliath. Let's take a look at the tuning, and I'll kind of explain why I chose what I chose. So first, I'll show you the upgrades, and then I'll show you the custom tuning, and I'll explain why I chose what I chose. We'll start with the conversions, and the engines here. This is a stock engine, and it's the one I ended up using. It ends up being a 3.4 liter, 771 horsepower after upgrades, but it is a twin turbo motor. I strongly considered changing it to the 4.5 liter V8. This is a Ferrari motor also. This is the motor from the Ferrari 458. I also considered using the 6 liter V12 from the Enzo. These are all Ferrari motors. The reason that I thought about switching them, well, I prefer a naturally aspirated motor. The reason I didn't switch them is because this is a rear-wheel drive build, and if it were an all-wheel drive build, then I wouldn't have been worried about the torque. But you can see the torque here on the 4.5 liter V8 has a lot of torque to start with, and so does the 6 liter V12 even more so. So our torque here was much lower. So I chose this one so we didn't have as much wheel spin when we're taking off. So this is a rear-wheel drive build, so I went with the motor with the least amount of torque off the line. So that's the reason we went with the stock powertrain, and I've already mentioned that it's the stock drivetrain as well. Mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, awesome starting points for any car. This car is amazing, by the way. Did nothing with the aero. Next is the tires. The tire compound is the semi-slick race tire compounds. 245 fronts, 375 rears. I upped the rear size, of course, because of wheel spin. It's the stock Ferrari rims. It's the stock front track width, and then it's the fully upgraded rear track width. The race clutch, and we're using the race 6-speed transmission. You can see the 10 speeds here, the 9-speed, 8-speed, 7-speed, and then this one's called race transmission. It's a 6-speed, and that's how you know which one it is. They're always, with the race transmissions, there's a 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. The 6-speed is the lightest one, so that's why we use the 6 here. Oh, fuck. We could put the drive line in there, and you could put that in there. I didn't put it in there. I didn't think to check that after I made the tune. We could lose 4.9 pounds. Fuck it. Let's do it, right? And then the race differential. I mean, 4.5 pounds is 4.5 pounds. We'll take it. The race brakes, the race spring and dampers, the race front and rear anti-roll bars. We also have the full roll cage chassis, and the reason I put that on there, and I understand this isn't your meta tune that some people like to always build to, it's not the highest PI that you can get per upgrade, but sometimes I think that the lateral G's are more important than your performance horsepower. The car should be drivable, and we get more lateral G's, more stability, more traction with the roll cage on there, so that's why I put it on there. We got the race weight reduction, we got your race intake, race fuel system, race ignition, your race exhaust, race camshaft, race valves, race the engine block, the race pistons, the race twin turbo, race flywheel, stock oil and cooling, and stock intercooler. So that's the upgrades, and I talked about why we did it that way. Now let's take a look at the custom tuning. Runs a 27-pound front, 28-pound rear. The gearing is final drive is 240. We're only utilizing 5 of the gears, and if you want to know about that, I can get into that in depth. You could have used it for 6. I tried it with 6 gears, and I tried it with 5. It's very hard to tell the difference. They both have the same top speed, both have the same 0 to 100 time. That's a whole nother story. But anyways, first gear is 414. I don't believe that's touched. 267. Second gear, I don't believe that's touched. Third gear is 185. Fourth gear is 140. Fifth gear is 109. Sixth gear is 0.74. Doesn't matter. You're not using it anyways. Do not shift into sixth gear. You won't naturally, and if you're driving on a stick, don't use it. Your alignment is adjusted. Your cambers, -0.5 in the front, -0.3 in the back. Your toes at 0, 0. Your front caster Angle is at 7 degrees. Anti-roll bars, I didn't touch it, didn't need it. It's 30.5, 24.2 springs, I didn't touch it, didn't need it. 53, 537.1, 821.8, 5.8, 6.1. I didn't touch the ride height either. You could try and drop it down, but when I was testing it, everything worked good here. I liked that the front ride height is slightly lower than the back. And I was afraid if we dropped it down any lower that we might start bottoming out. We don't bottom out at all on the track here, so I like these settings. Damping, I didn't touch this either. There were no issues with the suspension, so I didn't touch it. I mean, I did touch some of the suspension, but as far as the damping, springs, and roll bars, there were no issues driving there. So I didn't adjust any of that stuff. Arrows untouched, brakes untouched, differentials untouched as well. What we need to do is save it because there's a new upgrade. We're going to call this Goliath V2. The other Goliath tune doesn't have that final upgrade that we saw we can put on there. So that's the only difference between that tune and this one. This one's 4.5 pounds lighter because of the driveline upgrade. So we're going to search for creator, and my gamer tag is THE space NFAC. So the share code for that tune right there is 137214992. 137214992. With that, let's take it for a drive. This car is specifically tuned for Kiwi Titans on Reddit. Thank you for suggesting the build. I appreciate all that. While I do this tune, I'm going to cycle through some of the telemetry so you can see exactly how things are working. So let's get into the race. And it's an S1-900 1987 Ferrari F40. Share code again is 137214992. If you want to try it out, let me know what you think, where you think it can be adjusted, if it fits your driving style. And you can see how much we had wheel spin there, and that's with the twin turbos with lower torque. And we had still a good amount of wheel spin, but not so much that we were just sitting there spinning the tires and losing ground to these other racers. That's why I kept it with the stock motor instead of switching to a naturally aspirated motor. I really thought about switching the motor. I did some research and made sure they were all Ferrari motors, which they were, the conversion motors. But I ended up sticking with the twin turbo one because I thought it would be better for this build, being a rear wheel drive mid-engine, the lower torque takeoff was the better way to go, in my opinion. And I think it was the right choice. It feels good. It's also lighter. It was the lightest of the three motors, so that counts for something too. Gotta love the way these mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars can get around corners. And with that said, let's start taking a look at the telemetry so I can show you what I did. This is like the worst place on the whole fucking map to try and cycle into telemetry. Alright, so what we did here, what we're looking at here, none of this really matters right now, so we'll skip off general. The only reason I would look at this menu is to show you the horsepower when shifting gears. And I can talk about that later when we get into the highway. I'll show you that stuff. For now, let's get into the suspension. Alright, so basically when you're tuning, you want your car to, well, you don't want the suspension to bottom out or get too high. So basically I drove 2 laps here on Goliath and I kept an eye on the suspension throughout, and there were no issues. We didn't bottom out. We didn't bottom out during turning. We didn't bottom out during acceleration. We didn't bottom out while slamming on the brakes or going over bumps. So that's the reason I didn't adjust any of the suspension except for the camber and caster. The spring rate, the anti-roll bars, all that stuff, you know, the car performs really well the way it was, so I didn't touch that. If it's not broken, I'm not going to fix it. So that's why we didn't touch any of that stuff. I could have touched it if it felt necessary. It did not. The car handles really well, as you can see. So basically, all I'm trying to show you right here is that the suspension works well. Alright, let's move into the next part of the tune. What you see here is the tire pressures. They're both right under, god damn it. They're both right under 32 pounds. I don't know if it's actually true or not, but I've heard that your optimum grip is going to be at 32 pounds. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that if you don't adjust the tire pressures, that you will be riding on much hotter tires with much, not hotter tires, but you'll be riding on much, they have harder tires with more pounds per square inch if you don't adjust them the way I did. They come naturally. If you left them the same way they were on the car when you got it, they would be running about 38 pounds, 35 pounds right now. We're keeping it at 32 for the most part, right around 32, depending on how much turning you do and how hot the tires get. Son of a bitch. See, I'm trying to look at the telemetry and trying to drive at the same time. It's just, you know, sometimes I fuck it up. But anyways, I mean, that was an easy turn that we didn't have to miss at all. The car, it's not the car, it was me. So, anyways, so that's what I wanted to show you there with the tire pressures. What else to show you? Ah, yes, this part. So, man, one of the things that was crazy with this car was how bad the tires were. The camber was really... The tires weren't sitting flat at all. The camber was really messed up. As you can see now, the tires are heating up evenly, more or less. And that means that there's more tire in contact with the road at all times. So that's good. This is what you want to see while driving. More contact with the road means better grip through acceleration, through braking, and through turning. How we achieve that is by setting the caster angle at 7 degrees, so we're able to run a more straight up tire while also getting the benefit of negative camber while turning. Let's take a look at the negative camber while turning. Son of a bitch. As you can see there, it goes see right now the tires are running very straight up and down, negative barely, be less than 1, between 1 and 0 while driving straight, and on the turns we're getting, well, I didn't get to look, but you'll see it probably gets up to -2 sometimes, -1.5, and that's what you get by running a high caster angle. And again, I'm just showing you this so you understand the process that I use. There may be better process, but at least I can explain why I chose the upgrades that I chose. You know, I could be convinced to change them, but you're gonna need to show me why. You know, like some people like to tell you, hey, this is what you do, but they don't explain the process behind it. I like to explain why I'm doing things the way I'm doing them, because that way you know what I'm thinking, and maybe you can explain to me why it's wrong, or you know, if you say that's not the right way, you're thinking about it the wrong way, then we can have a discussion about it instead of just saying, hey, this is my way, it's better than your way. That's not the point here. The point is to be a better tuner and a better driver. So always open to discussion about tuning. Every time I talk to somebody about tuning, I become a better tuner. So if you'd like to talk about tuning, you're welcome to hit me up at Not Fooling Around Crew Discord server. You can hit me up on Reddit as well. You can hit me up on Twitch. You can hit me up on YouTube. If you'd like the show, please leave a like on YouTube. Like button should be right below me. Alright, so what's next? Okay, so since we're getting into some straights here, I'll talk to you about the horsepower in the transmission. So as you can see, our power is, when it's all the way up, we're running about 770 horsepower. Now, what you want to do when you're adjusting your transmission, you want to get the fastest 0 to 100 time you can. It's the only benchmark that you have. But after 0 to 100, there's plenty of things you can do with your transmission if you're running a race transmission. If you're running a sport transmission, you're unable to adjust the gears. And so the only thing you can do is you can adjust your final drive, and that's how many gears. Well, that's not how many gears you have. I mean, it could be how many gears you have access to by you could tune very low on the final drive to get away from some of the gears. The car will naturally not shift into gears that it doesn't need to go into. But I tune with a race transmission, and I tune individual gears as well after 0 to 100. So 0 to 100 is achieved with the final drive ratio. We can find the fastest 0 to 100 time with the final drive. Then from there, I'll tune the individual gears so that you sit in your power band. So you find the top speed, which for this car is supposedly 235. I think it's actually about 233 on the highway. You can find that in the chart. I explained that in one of my other videos. But anyways, so what we want to do is when we shift, so like this car will go 0 to 100 in first and second gear. So when we shift into third gear, we want to make sure that we're staying in the power band. So the power here is at 770 horsepower. We're forced induction, so we actually don't fall out of that power band quick. Like, we get right back into the power band quickly, which is why I tuned it for 5 years instead of 6. But you can see on some cars that once you shift, it'll go from 770 down to like 600, and then it'll slowly build up to 770, shift, and do it again. This car doesn't do that. You can see that now. Keep an eye on when it's after the shifts, the power band goes to 0, and then it jumps right back up to 770. So that's the reason that we kept it with 5 gears instead of 6. If it had dropped out of the power band, I might have put an extra gear in there. I didn't think it was necessary here. That's the reason that it's tuned the way it is. I think possibly if it was naturally aspirated, we might have used another gear, but we didn't have to because of how quickly this gets back into the power band. So that's the thought process there. And that's pretty much it. That's the entire process that I used. Like I said, the suspension was good. We didn't need to change much there. I mean, I changed the caster and the camber, but spring tension, roll bars, none of that stuff needed to be adjusted. The car drives really well. We've got the roll cage in there as well, which I know some people don't like doing that for PI purposes. Same with the brakes, but with this engine combination, we had the ability to use the brakes. And you know, I think for running hairpins and stuff like that, which this one doesn't have many on, it has one hairpin, but I like having the weight reduction from the brake upgrades, and then the brake upgrades are just a bonus on top of that. So anyways, this is the tune. If you like the tune, well, that's great. You can use the tune, you can give me feedback on it. Share code is 137. I need to look down right now. 137-214-992. Alright, let's get back to driving. I'm going to turn off the telemetry. Just drive for a little bit. And this is a really awesome car. Thank you for suggesting this car. It's amazing. Like, I really I didn't own one of these. I had a F40 competition. I will probably buy like 3 more of these and tune them up to different classes. I really like this car, and I would like to try the naturally aspirated versions as well. Like I explained why I used the turbo version, the stock version here, and it does perform well. And the added bonus of having the lower initial torque was it was the lightest of the motors as well. So there we go. That's a first place finish in under 13 minutes on Goliath while bullshitting and talking. I think I went off the track once there, but 13.3? What? I guess they got me with something there. It said 12:58 on my lap time. But anyways, there you go. 12:58 on my lap time. So that's a pretty good lap time, I think, especially while it's chatting. Okay, that's my tune. This is the 1987 Ferrari F40. Shout out to Kiwi Titans on Reddit for suggesting this tune on this track. I had a ton of fun tuning it. Thank you very much. I hope you liked the tune. If you guys liked the video, please leave a like on YouTube, and you could leave me a follow and a sub on YouTube and Twitch. Still in FAC on Twitch and Not Fooling Around Crew on YouTube. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'm out.